This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org. Welcome to another edition of Maui Causes. Hi, I'm Sam Small in the studio with the assistance of Sleepy John and Todd Swan at Akaku's wonderful facility that gives us an opportunity to talk to you directly and bring you issues and ideas, information as factual as we can do. You know, I do a lot of research. I'm working with other people that do research, and the things that we talk about here tend to be factual. We're not making this stuff up. That is a promise, and we will continue to pursue that. There is a level of journalistic integrity that we try and bring to our research because we're not fooling around. We are seriously here to be a positive, constructive disruption to the status quo. That is the goal and the promise that this program will bring you information that is constructive. If we have criticisms, they're fact-based, and we will always try and present you with alternative solutions to the problems that we have here. Some folks on Maui like to think that everything is wonderful. It's a wonderful, lovely bubble that people live in. They're not comfortable hearing anything that's negative. I'm sorry. If you've moved to Maui, if you sleep here on Maui, you have a responsibility to this community and to the land because that's how things work here in Hawaii. We are connected to the land, and we have a responsibility to the land and to the people. There's a responsibility, I think, to the Hawaiian culture. They have been severely damaged by the powers that be. The plantation families and the plantation system colonialized an entire people. And there are survivors of that, and they need to be seen as survivors because that's in truth what they are. A very resilient and extraordinary people who've had their culture ripped out from under them and are still reeling from that and still healing from that. And in part, that's what the progressive movement seeks to memorialize and to bring into the active management of this land. Alika Atai has been talking lately about the mokus and how the mokus have existing systems. Kimokeo Foundation is a show that we, Maui Causes, is a co-producer of. And Kimokeo has been bringing to the public members of these different mokus who have specific skills in managing the resources of this land. They have knowledge and understanding that dates back thousands of years. It's an oral history that has been transmitted, and they have that knowledge, and they can contribute that knowledge into our county system if we set up the appropriate mechanism to do that. And that means having representative of the mokus in council session, in council committees, with a specified role, with some authority over what we're talking about. This is completely different than our existing structure today. Our existing structure in the county council is totally geared to benefit developers, hotels, and specific business interests. We are dominated. Our entire culture is dominated. Our political system is dominated. Our county administration is dominated. And you can make a difference to change that by your participation in this election cycle. If you've never voted before, now is the time. If you've voted before, but maybe you didn't even vote correctly, did you know that for county council, you get to check off all 9 boxes? Thousands of voters who have come to the polls in the elections to vote only checked off one box because that's the district they live in. That's not how it works here. We have to educate our community to vote and vote properly. You have a responsibility to, your kuleana is to check 9 boxes. There are 9 candidates that you get to choose. And if we get 6 progressive candidates on the county council from this election, so many of the changes that are now so necessary to heal and put Maui back onto a path towards sustainability and truly caring for its public, we can do that with 6 people on the county council. It'd be nice to have more, but at least 6 of them will allow us to do the job that so desperately needs to be done. In support of those 6 candidates and to bring issues forward to the community, a new organization has started, and we're beginning to shoot shows here on a Kaku. Maui Causes is producing a show for the Maui Pono Network. The first organizational meeting happened just last night, and nearly 100 people came out to come together and form a community grassroots organization that will be able to support candidates and support issues. It's not just a popularity contest. If we as a community go out and present our needs and our suggestions, we have a county council that has been completely stagnant because they are desperately holding on to the status quo. They are desperately holding on to those economic advantages that are consistently extracted out of the community and into the pockets of developers and other industries at the expense of every single resident and taxpayer here. We are paying their bills, and our county administration, the way that it is under Mayor Alan Arakawa with his directors, they extract every single possible dollar out of your tax, of your pocket, and give that to their friends. And we can stop that. We can stop that if you participate in the vote. Maui Pono Network will be bringing together a whole variety of existing organizations. That's why it's called a network. The idea is that we can hui up and we can all come together and support our community in ways that our community needs support. We as a community, we as citizens have a responsibility to do these things. And we're bringing you today 2 gentlemen who are out in the community doing this kind of service work. And I would like to introduce you to DAHI HAKIM and SWRAJ, both of whom have extensive background in health services and in community organization to serving the community. And if you would, please, gentlemen, take a moment and introduce yourselves and tell us of the actions that you've been taking in the community. SWRAJ, I know that you've been involved in feeding people down in Paia. Tell us about yourself and that initiative.
Well, I'll first try and address the key issue as shelter and hunger is a key issue. And while living, and as I moved to Maui, I realized that, and that's why I assisted in running a community kitchen, and I worked and coordinated with other organizations like Maui Food Bank, Salvation Army, and other organizations to collect and organize the food for everybody on the street. Mm-hmm. So that the key issue is if we address each one in a neighborhood, one-on-one, we can address the situation in a more comprehensive manner. And hence, me and DAHI have been working and taking that forward and inviting other religious institutions like churches, Buddhist organizations like Dharma centers, and even public institutions like community centers, which are spread all across the Maui city, to come together to address this burning issue of shelter and hunger. Like you rightly said, it's a systematic issue because 37,000 acres of land is under sugarcane. Rest of the people hardly have any land to stay because of the spiraling high real estate rates. So it's a key issue. We have to come together as a SOS situation rather than blame game, and inviting everyone to address key shelter and hunger. If we come together as a beehive, one step at a time, we can address this comprehensively amongst ourselves as a community. So this is what we are bringing to the table by practice and by doing it by deed. Thank you.
Dahi?
Wonderfully put. Yeah, it's exactly what we're here for. There is the reality of having an increasing number of homeless people here and the increasing number of people without any food.
Right.
And this really originally started by my seeing the lady in Paia that we all see, Sarah, I think is her name. She shakes her little something at vehicles, and she has come to where she stands in front of vehicles on the highway and is about to get hit. So I actually saw somebody get out of their car and threaten her, and I scared her out of the way. But eventually somebody is going to hit that lady. And also by another gentleman that we knew in our community originally, and 5 years later we see him still on the street wearing shredded pants, having lost his sanity from whatever trauma went on in his life.
Right. And there's no safety net to assist these
On
people.
the contrary, you know, all of us with our shortcomings as human beings, we have judgment and assess these people as rejects. And the more we do that, the more the situation is going to be aggravated. And in speaking to different agencies, they all tell me that the rate that these people are coming to Maui is increasing rapidly.
Yes.
And there's starting to be violence from them and from the people responding to them.
Right.
And so that cannot accelerate. We have to bring that back and find solutions to the issue here.
And it only makes things harder. Hard enough a situation where people are simply economically disadvantaged. We have enough people that are moving into that sector because the system is so rigged. So much money is being extracted out of our public coffers.
Like you said, all of it.
That added on top of that are people who are additionally perhaps mentally or psychologically disadvantaged and have issues. Society just can't throw these people away.
There is no crisis unit on Maui. There is such funding for it on Oahu, but it hasn't even begun here. And this is part of what we are doing here. This is the initiation of that, and to see if we can get realistic pieces to join us, us join them, whether it's churches or Buddhist temples, or, but that's what they're supposed to be here. They're a religious institution of sort that speaks to the morality of decency, and so they need to step up and actually do that while all these churches sit empty and these people live on the streets and are getting worse and making the community more difficult for everyone as well, not just for themselves.
Sure. So the idea of a network, carries through, into what you're talking about. That there we have a variety of different small, isolated support systems in churches and other civil and community groups that, if they were coordinated, well coordinated, could provide a much greater level of sustained support for not only people who are, have psychological issues or drug issues, perhaps, but simply are, economically challenged,
disadvantaged.
Yeah.
And you rightly put it, like the Pono Network, we are inviting each one of us as individuals also. If they want to join us, we are ready to do it at step by step. Like, we are ready to share all our experience, how we have done it.
And our passion towards this.
Our passion.
We actually, I have a Facebook page that I've had such an incredible response. So many people are willing to contribute at any level. They're all waiting, they're on hold. but we need the actual institution. We need the first institution to have the courage and say, yes, we are really a church, we are really a Buddhist center,
Right.
and yes, we want to be the initiating of this, so other churches see that it is the human thing to do. It's our responsibility, not just because we're foreigners on foreign land to us, but out of respect and regard for humanity.
Right.
Everyone needs to step up, both as individuals and as institutions. And so we are very clearly inviting not only that, but leadership. We need council people, we need senators or state representatives and to come and give us guidance and support as well.
Right. Right. So, and that's you are opening the door to the full range of organizational needs to create that kind of network. So that's grant writers and media people and all of the things that you are launching a grassroots initiative to be in service to this community.
As you pointed out, this has already been launched, and we are. The timing seems to be divine, where we are part of this reality, and it just got launched yesterday, as you pointed out.
And there may be a crossover. That is certainly something. The things that you were describing are a perfect extension of what the Maui Pono Network is designed and conceived to do. Maui Pono just got started. You guys are also just getting started. Whether there's a marriage there, we can try and make that. I don't know, but it's the grassroots seeding that here at Maui Causes we're so interested in promoting, and it's why we bring people like these two gentlemen onto the show to bring to the community people who have the skills, who have the motivation, who have an understanding of how to make a difference and are indeed already doing that. But we want to network out and bring others into the initiative. So people can reach you, Dahi, at your email.
DAHIHAKIM@gmail.com. Also, you can find me on Facebook very easily under the same name.
All right, and we'll put that on the screen so you can have the proper spelling of that. And so anyone who is interested in, we can get into, and we'll get into some of the specifics of how you're seeing the community come together and the resources that are already in place that could be better utilized.
Well, you pointed out, they're really just using it up for their friends, and that really cannot go on. It has to be addressed in a manner where we have leadership that can stop them. Not only us individuals voting clearly, like you pointed out, but organizations like Pono really extending themselves.
Well, and the whole church network. I mean, this is traditionally an area where
there is
church
zero
service.
of that. Churches sit empty.
Well, we have initiatives. I mean, the Good Shepherd is something that functions here on Maui. There are food collecting initiatives.
The food that they get is really absolutely minimal and is really poor nutrition. I'm a nutritionist for advanced diseases, and I see that none of that I could call nutrition. Actually, the peanut butter they give them is really not digestible even.
Right.
So on and on, it's not.
Well, and on a federal level, it's a scary thing because there is an initiative. The government has created a program with the processed food manufacturers, and they're actually looking at taking away food stamps and replacing that with boxes of manufactured crappy food that the government would actually be delivering to people crappy food for them to eat instead of giving them dollars so that they can get the food of their choice. Then at least you have a shot that people are buying quality food instead of crappy food.
Actually, the spreading of disease.
The government is actually making a deal with corporations. That is movement in the wrong direction. If you have an understanding of how these things work, of how corporations take an initiative and turn it to their best advantage instead of the best advantage of you, the public, that's an example of how these things are done.
And on that note, you rightly, well, I have to share that I've spent 14 years in stock markets and financial markets. And I've been in corporate boardrooms I let it all go to share my experience and work for not-for-profits. 5 years, and I worked on climate change and sustainability. First key inspiration for me is Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world.
Sure.
And that's one of the key things. We either look at the scary situation or we awaken ourselves to be self-sufficient, like the Cuban experiment in Havana when there was a US embargo. They started growing on each terrace. Every place where the sun hit, they were growing their own food for self-sufficiency. And that is the key need that first each one of us, whether it's the public institutions, whether it is Alexander Baldwin, they also are listed under a corporate Alex. It's listed on NYSE. It's quoted at $45. They also are at tenterhooks. Everybody, if we awaken, write letters. There's a power that they say, Gandhi used to always say, the pen is mightier than the sword. If you write a letter to New York Stock Exchange, to Alex, asking them what are they doing about the 37,000 acres of land which has degraded this environment, and how are they standing responsible? Because under corporate social responsibility, each corporate, whether it is Mr. Fink, BlackRock, which owns a huge stake in Alex, Warren Buffett, who through Berkshire Hathaway is invested big way in Kanapali, Four Seasons, which is again Bill Gates, Prince Al Tuaid of he's of Saudi Arabia, invested in all this. Every corporate in America has benefited out of Maui, consciously or subconsciously, because I'm a student of economics, and in high finance, we analyze data as big data. There is $655 million annual budget dollars
for Maui.
And Maui, and the official figures is 165,000. If we add people, if we add up all the unofficial figures and even peg it at 500,000, nearly 1,200 is the approximate each individual would receive. We would never have a dire situation.
Right.
It's not about the dollar, it's about conviction.
Well,
it's about each one coming together and working, whether it's corporate, whether it is the city council, whether it's a religious institution. We all need to put our differences in the past, come together, and see it as a burning issue.
And unfortunately, the issue is one of the domination that I spoke of, because as you're detailing, that there are business interests that make a tremendous amount of money. They extract tremendous value out of Maui County, and none of it comes back. And this is a domination system that has been institutionalized in Hawaii 125 years ago. Maui and Hawaii, as typical, are way ahead of the rest of the United States. There's an experience that's going on here.
Not in that way. It's the same in our government now.
Well, but the people on the mainland are only now being confronted with it. The Hawaiian culture has been confronted by this domination for 125 plus years.
I agree.
And that's the difference here. Maui and Hawaii are way ahead of the curve, and us here on Maui, are in the position once again where we have an opportunity to demonstrate leadership for the rest of the nation and for the rest of the world. That we have access to the mechanisms to overhaul our society, overhaul the structure of our government, and change the way that the government is not working for the people, so that it does indeed work for the people. We can make that change structurally in our government, and we can also make that change on the ground. Right. Doing the grassroots organizing
both
and
the small picture and the big picture
both simultaneously.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes.
You use the small picture to demonstrate to people that the larger picture also needs to be effective.
And the people in leadership not doing their part need to be addressed directly.
Yes. We're at a place where we have the opportunity to vote them out. And that is the goal here, is to bring awareness to the community that you have the power to make this change. We make it on the ground, and we also make it at the highest level as well. And in Maui County, that's choosing who you vote for mayor and choosing who you vote for county council, not on popularity. Don't let popularity drive, your choices of who the candidates are. Let's make these issues the driving force of how people choose what candidates to go for. There's more to our show in just a moment. This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org. I've asked people in the elders that I speak to, how in the old days did you decide who to vote for? Oh, and they say, oh, that was easy. Whoever threw the best party. Oh. And it's understandable. That's how the system worked. They were instructed, for years. The only thing that the people growing up in Hawaii, heard was keep your head down, don't make waves, don't criticize, don't get singled out, because they will step on you. They will hurt us if you step out of line. And people in this society have heard this for so long, they think that it's normal. And it's anything but normal.
I totally agree with you. And like you rightly said, it's ironically a Truman Show.
Yes.
That we have 37,000 acres of land under Alexander Baldwin, and we have nearly 4,000 under Syngenta, 27,000 under Edmund, which is Ulupalakua Ranch. And we have a burning issue that Maui and Hawaii is the highest in homeless situation, right, in statistics of homelessness in America, and one of the most expensive real estate. Highest number of investment is coming into Maui.
Taxes.
And taxes. So it's not about, if we expect any politician to make a change for us, nobody's going to make it unless we awaken and understand our rights and stand up for it. It's about we as an individual stand up for each one. Imagine if you had no shelter. The spiraling rent of 1,000 a room going up to 1,500, it's going to be 2,000. It's going to be another Bay Area unless you don't stand up for your own right.
And it's going to happen any moment. I'm sure many people are on their last rent and are going to, but I know so many people that work at least one job, if not two, and live in their car. And they live in their car.
Right.
And they're all really respectable people. It's just community, society is making it impossible for them. So to bring it back to step one, both the small picture and the big picture, we are looking for the first church, the first Dharma center that says, okay, I'm on board, and so how are we going to fit in? What is it what tools do you have? What tools do we have? How can we come together so that we can actually take steps forward? So we are looking for leadership, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And we are even inviting corporate leaderships.
Yes.
Like, there's a beautiful aspect when you even marry the corporates, they undertake beautiful execution. Like, I use my own corporate knowledge in finance into retraining youths to install their own solar community projects.
Mm-hmm.
And we executed at a lower cost, like breaking it down to nearly 30%, we reduced our cost. So this is about each one, whether it's the city council, whether it's Ala Narakawa, or whether it is Alikata, everybody is on this island is a family. We have to see it as a kuleana, as a ohana, and see that we leave a legacy which is beautiful beyond us. Because we can rake in the millions, but what we leave behind is important.
And some respect for the Aina and for the people whose land we're on. I mean, the least we could offer is some empathy and compassion, and not make a mess by allowing all these people to become more and more homeless and ruin everything for them,
right,
even more. So something has to, the first steps have to be taken. We have developed a team, both an intellectual team and a street team that goes out and gets people and assists people on their last moments. We have actually saved people from the streets. Just doing it on the individual basis is only going to get us so far.
Right.
There has to be some substantial movement that is associated with a movement, as a team, change all of this. And like he pointed out, not all is forgiven. We just need to step from here in the right direction.
Peace and harmony, and even an appeal to the city council members and whoever's fighting the election, that to look at a deep issue. The property tax has driven a lot of locals out of their own homes as they have been unable to pay the high property taxes. And this is where they have to look at in financing, which they call as moratorium. Moratorium is the debt by banks, like all our housing forfeitures are by Bank of New York and Mellon Group, which Alexander Baldwin owes 100 million debt. It's in their balance sheet of Alex.
That's right.
You can go. So virtually, rather than we being feudalized and mortgaged to Bank of New York, they need to understand, and everybody, because the buck starts at Bank of New York and Mellon Group.
Right.
They have nearly trillions of dollars in assets. It's time for them to understand, and each one, from the lowest denominator to the highest, to take conviction, take the intention that we are ready to give back to nature, as if in debit and credit, that we give back, remediate that soil, and in economics, like they say, descaling, deregulation, and redistribution of assets and energy to the people, for the people. Thank you.
As well, we are inviting Hawaiian leadership. You know, and there's many people
And expertise.
right?
Yes.
And running for office, that would be so beneficial to have this on their ticket and to be on the forefront of this consciousness movement and really show that that's what how human and caring they are about everyone.
Well, and certainly, you know, to have some kind of public-private cooperation, a partnership that works together with, you know, public grants. You know, the county certainly does put money up as grants.
Seems to be a lot of people fighting for them, is what it is, and it.
Well, there are, and unfortunately, in the existing culture of our county administration, you have to toe the line in certain ways. You have to pay homage to the powers that be to be able to get those grants.
Fill out
and
the forms.
there are, you know, there are housing organizations that are well aware. I've had conversations with, you know, other community grassroots groups, and they're afraid to come on the show. Because the discussion tends to drift into the systemic loopholes and
Politricks.
and politricks. Thank you. I like that word. I'm going to use that. And they can't be responsible for outing and discussing that stuff in public because they are getting grants from the county. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, getting Weevily peanuts. It's like getting the you know, the dregs, but it's all they have.
However, bringing this consciousness forward, they can't sit there and deny this any longer. The sentence I've been using is, that woman on the street is no longer invisible to us.
Right.
All these people can no longer be, after this particular moment here alone, those people can no longer be invisible to anybody on Maui. We all have to individually step up and find our own integrity and find our moral values and direction, and impart that and behave that way, not just talk about how spiritual we are and how they're a Catholic or Protestant church that doesn't even.
It's clear to people looking at the system that if your income is not based on extracting this stuff out, you know, inappropriately from the county, if you're independent of that, then you probably don't like Alan Arakawa. You know,
Sure.
But if you're, and among the many people in this community who, not for any real fault of their own, it's just sort of the way that things developed, because these business interests have been so institutionalized here. There was no, I mean, you can't fault somebody for working for decades for A and B.
Yeah,
That's what was available to them.
Precisely.
And it's not their fault.
Precisely.
But we have available to us the ability, or Monsanto, we have available to us to shift and stir up that pot so that it's no longer A and B. And A and B is no longer the company that it was. It's no longer
It is a debt-ridden
Hawaii
company, which is already a New York-based company. BlackRock has taken a controlling stake in it. And BlackRock is one of the biggest investment firm, has taken nearly 299 corporates. Mr. Fink heads it. And there are other big corporates who have controlling stake.
Right.
Like Bank of China has a controlling stake.
So this notion that there's this cultural alliance.
Was there really ever a true alliance?
But
in the early
in that they hired them.
Well, in the early days of colonial and plantation, there was a relationship. It was skewed, because the people were, essentially indentured servants.
Right. They live in the main house, and everybody else works for them.
Works hard for them.
And dear Sir Sam, I realize the pain of each person who's been indentured farmhands, because I come from a place in India where my own parents were indentured farmhands, and from there I rose with education to be on corporate boardrooms and to be empowered and to discuss these issues and to undertake and make a difference. Because each one has a choice. Either we can keep on raking millions or see what we can do for the larger good. Because first, like you rightly pointed out, the Hawaiians first, the original son of soils, the immigrant workers who have been exploited on the plantations and who are still looked down upon for working on inorganic farms. We need to get out of that guilt, shame, and judgment and embrace each one. And each one takes, like whether it is A and B, the family, each one of their member also needs to understand that they are where they are because of the legacy of their forefathers and ancestors.
Absolutely.
And I myself take full responsibility that I'm here in Maui because of a prosperity which was fueled, and I've also benefited out of it, and that's why I'm being the changer and reducing my carbon footprint, trying to do what I can do in my own small measure. As each one rises, we can just join hands. There's, like we said, about peace and harmony, whether it's the Hawaiians, the immigrant workers who have been on the plantation, the new immigrants, everybody here. We come together, we can supplement each other's weaknesses and strengths to address. It's like a storm in a teacup when you see the figures. 500,000 people can easily housed, easily sheltered if we have that coming together as family. Like the Amish people, each one takes care. It's an example.
And it's an example of walking the talk.
Precisely.
I interact with a number of different people in the community at different levels of the community, and there are some wealthy individuals who have dialogue. They want to participate, in the political process. They support certain candidates. They support certain ideas. And they support talking about change.
Precisely.
They support talking about change.
Because it's cool.
Because in some cases, they feel guilt.
But
They have what they have, they got what they got, and they have a guilt
and you hear these billionaires speak of, even they've stood up to Trump saying, look, us billionaires are getting more billions, and that's really unreasonable.
We don't need it.
We don't need it, but they don't distribute that, they just talk about it.
They talk about it.
Right.
And there's a sector of the Maui community that's kind of where they're at. And they haven't yet been willing to bite the bullet and say that indeed my alliance to the big money interests, because I socialize, I'm invited to the Baldwin's Christmas party, I don't want to lose that. Well, I'm sorry. This is why I always make the
Step up and be a
apology
human
on this
being.
show that the powers that be, my apologies to the powers that be, but change has to come, and it's going to disrupt a little bit. You're not going to hurt because of it. You already have enough. Your family already has enough. It's not going to hurt you to stop the flow, the extraction, the unreasonable extraction and exploitation of resources and dollars and the environment here in Maui County. It's not really going to hurt you. But and your conscience will truly be served and truly be released. Your guilt will truly be released if you are willing to embrace the kind of change that we're truly needing and truly creating here in Maui County. These changes are coming. You know, the ability, our ability just to have this show, you know.
I refer to it as piece by piece by piece. And that's how we're going to step forward.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is why, at a deep level, I have decided to live in Maui and dedicate most of my time towards this cause, because I see at a very microscopic level that if in my lifetime I can leave behind a legacy of doing more beyond myself,
Right.
and addressing this burning issue and seeing it as a long-term issue. Like all CEOs, it's very fashionable to declare $1 as annual salary and take big bonuses. But I'm willing to put in all time and effort for $0 and bringing the community, whether doesn't matter what walk of life they come from, whether it's corporates, whether it's the mafia, everybody is a family member in Maui, to bring them on a table and to work towards a common good, a common cause for the people. I'm willing to do it in whatever capacity each one is ready to extend. Like the book, there's a very inspirational book, I Left Microsoft to Change the World. He talks about how he, being a Microsoft executive, he left that and used those lean methods of accounting for every penny and setting up low-cost teaching schools in Nepal and Kathmandu.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of parallel with my life, and I let go stockbroking to use that capacity to reduce cost and take energy to the masses, where unelectrified people, tribals, could have electricity in community. Same aspect, how we can take food and shelter. Hunger and shelter is the two basic needs of human. We address it. And the other emotional needs will slowly follow. This is the two critical needs, and energy, of basic need of energy. Like one of the key things, most homeless don't even have a plug point to charge their phones, whereas we have cars charging their eco cars, electric cars, for free. So this is where we need to seize acceptance, sharing and caring.
And the housing issue is a phenomenal one. This nexus between housing and healthcare and the costs of healthcare. Josh Green is running for lieutenant governor and has done a bunch of research to be able to show and demonstrate and show the numbers that if it's like 3 to 1, if you give someone a house, the average cost, I'm told, I think it's around $11,000 a month to sustain that. And if you do not give them the house, the health care that homeless person consumes through emergency rooms costs $33,000 a month.
Yet the insurance companies are sewed in, so they
Well, they're not
hesitate.
paying for it. You know, the public is paying for it. So this
To
is
the insurance companies.
well to the hospital. You know, we have hospital corporations here, so it's it's the healthcare services, whatever it is, to the hospitals, and so if you spend 11, you can save 22. You save 33.
And that's precisely what I'm requesting each corporate. Like a CSR is corporate social responsibility, that they have to give back at least 1 to 2% of their profits back to the community.
It's not asking much.
And that's not asking much. Like for Kaiser Permanente, which is running the Maui Memorial Hospital, instead of just looking at Wailuku operations, if they look at this as a redistributed over 4 directions, each community, where the community center is, they can have outreach programs addressing the basic needs. Each corporate, it's very viable for long term that they invest back into the community rather than just extracting from the community, like you said, because it's like the French Revolution, like Queen Anne said, if they don't have bread, eat cake.
Right.
You cannot ask people to have go do your work if you don't have proper housing and proper health care and basic needs of hunger not being met. And this is where we need to each one of us wake up and smell the coffee, that rather than expecting a politician, because no elections change anything. I come from one of the largest democracies in the world. It's a mockery that America and India have one of the largest democracies, and we have governments which are just neglecting the minorities. Mm-hmm. So it's each one individually. We know
feeding on the minorities.
We can stand up and hold each other's hands, come together. Doesn't matter where or what walk of life we are, and see how we can each feed and look into each other's eyes and take care of each other. We won't have to sit and contemplate and see how, like in the basic aspect you said about legacy of those rich people, it's karma is very simple. You give 2 credits to nature and take a little and leave the rest for the future generation. If they think in that simple terms of credit debit, that you invest 2 and take 1, leave the 1 for the community. That is simple. And
that's what creates sustainability, and that's what has not been happening here. And the exciting part, the invigorating part certainly, is that Maui is on a particular scale where even this grassroots, simple start can have a significant effect on the community and on the structure and how things are done here. We have an extraordinary level of access.
Precisely.
This is a simple little local cable show.
Absolutely.
But by virtue of what we do here, we have access to the county council members. We have relationships with people. I just did a presentation to Ellie Cochran's infrastructure committee on 3-lot or less subdivision developer deferral agreements that have been abused for the past 40 years. It's research that has been done in the community by caring individuals who have shared that information with me and this show, and we're bringing these issues to the public as educational material. They asked me to do 15 minutes. I spoke for 40 minutes, and I only covered like 1/3 of the levels of abuse that are the loopholes that are built into our county system that we as a community can step forward and fix.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you're raising these issues and creating the awareness, because it all starts with awareness. And I'm really grateful that you have.
Oh, I'm honored to do it. Thank you for thanking me.
Yes.
But you guys the same way.
Thank you.
I mean, that's the spirit that this is done.
We have to be the difference.
Yes.
We can't live with ourselves.
You have a responsibility. You sleep here, you have a responsibility
Precisely.
to care for the people. And the flaws in our system, because it's small, and freedom of information and electronic journalism and everything, all the other tools that we have available to us to make the difference, is what's making this time, this moment in time, is different. This moment in time, we have an opportunity to make this change.
And so does every individual that's listening.
You're all part of it.
Yeah, here we are.
Each one as a volunteer, if we do it. Like I myself, in spite of my 5 days of working in stock markets, I would go and volunteer in a city of 10 million, and we would try and take care as much as we could of homeless situation, even of stray dog situations. We used to coordinate with all the organizations because it all works with coordination. What happens is imagine each one as a social organization or as a religious institution, as a politician. We aren't talking to one another. We're just indulging in a blame game. And what I always have seen is about coordination. With peace and harmony, love emerges, awareness. And inshallah, with inner trust, everything will flow. We just need to come to a table, like they say, a round table. Gandhi started off movements with round tables, and that is what we need to see as examples of change within us.
Team building is where it's at for sure. You know, and we look forward to being the least of our team. We need serious leadership where we can work the grassroots little parts if necessary, or even have more pieces that can take care of the smaller pieces, and people who are leading us to the bigger overall picture of how we're going to make permanent change piece by piece towards finding housing for these people, and also health and nutrition.
Yeah.
Because if we feed them garbage or don't feed them, then housing is really not.
And to use, all of this is grassroots organizing is a multi-step process. This, opening the door, stating the intention, identifying the need, and stating the intention to find solutions to fill that need, that comes first. And as people are drawn into the process, then you develop the actual solutions, the deliverables, what you can do in the community, the networking, using the community centers as a hub, for instance, to be able to provide people food and basic healthcare services. We already have the community centers.
Yeah,
why not
and they're
utilize
closed.
them?
Unfortunately, they're closed. They come under Park and Recreation and Park Authority. Rather than they being closed, if they are opened up to address this basic need, and it's so simplified.
Right.
Food is the nutritional aspect, like he rightly pointed out and you rightly pointed out. If we see nutrition as a key need, it will address a lot of health issues, because food is the nutritional aspect, and shelter. These two things.
Imagine the anxiety you have if you don't have food.
Oh my God, it's massive. And if your choices are, salmon at $16 a pound versus Spam at like $1.69 a pound, if you're economically challenged, you're gonna buy the Spam. You're gonna try and feed your kids with that.
And it's illegal for us to set up a table in the park and feed these people. The cops will come and arrest you.
Well, and this is my next point, that once you create some of these solutions and build out a program to meet those basic needs, you also, at the same time, use that to generate the understanding in the public of the systemic changes that need to be made on the administrative level, on the county level, on the governmental level, to solve, to facilitate the solution that you've created, and also to stop the exploitation that has created this system in the beginning. So we start with the intention, we build the energy of the particular solutions, and then we use those solutions to hooey and change the system.
Yes.
And that is grassroots organizing.
That's
That is how it works, folks. It happens through your participation. It happens by you being drawn, for whatever reason, to participate in a movement. Because our existing system is not going to solve these problems. Our existing system is just rigged to exploit at every level. You can drill down at every level of our county government, the way that the administration is run. Every level of it is geared to extract money from the system. Pay as much money to the local businesses that support the politicians, the career politicians that are in place. And that's the level of exploitation, years and years and years and years of it. That's what we've demonstrated and proven through public documents has been going on in the Planning Commission, in the Planning Department, Public Works. and the office of the mayor as it stands today. Those individuals need to be denied access to your government. Those individuals who've been working and rigging the system and exploiting the system need to be denied. There are candidates who are coming forward who are willing to overhaul the system so that it works differently and supports the kind of community actions and the needs that this community has. And we invite you, thank you both, gentlemen, for your vision and your energies, your expertise. People can reach DAHI HAKIM at gmail.com. We'll put the spelling up. And you can also reach the new Pono Network, Maui Pono Network on Facebook, and we are still creating it. So we'll have links on Maui Causes. If you go to mauicauses.org, then we'll have links to DAHI and also to Maui Causes and to any other organization that is out there that is, doing the work on the ground, grassroots organizing, to be able to make these kinds of changes and inspire people to come out and vote so that we can fix the problem and then fix the underlying problem that allowed this to happen in the first place. That's the kind of system change, that's the kind of positive disruption that this program and our initiative is dedicated towards. Please join us at mauicauses.org. SWRAJ.
Thank you.
JATIN, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
This program is brought to you as a public service by Maui Causes. Maui Causes is a crowd-funded media production group that provides media production services to a variety of environmental and progressive causes here in Maui County. Visit us on the web at www.mauicauses.org.